Matt Reeves's The Batman is set to release next week in theaters, so I thought it would be a fitting time to quickly rank my picks for the top 10 greatest Batman villains. The Dark Knight has one of, if not the, greatest rogues galleries in all of comics. There are so many amazing villains to choose from, and narrowed down to just 10, that I'm bound to miss a few you might have included yourself. So, if there are any villains you would put on your ranking, make sure to leave them in the comments section below. Starting off my list at number 10, we have Dr. Thomas Elliott, Hush. He was the former childhood friend of Bruce Wayne, who would grow to develop a burning hatred and personal vendetta against him. Not all of this villain's appearances in comics and other media have been strong, I admit that, but I do think Hush as a character is somewhat underappreciated and misunderstood. I enjoy the fact that he is made to be a darker reflection of Bruce Wayne, coming from a wealthy family just like he did, being an only child, but one who despised his parents and would develop many psychopathic tendencies. And if you are familiar with some of the things Hush has done in Batman's stories, then you know how sick and twisted this guy can be, using his surgical skills to do some pretty fucked up shit. Next up at number 9 is the super-villainous and occasional anti-heroine Poison Ivy, a human-hating eco-terrorist with the ability to grow and control plant life with her mind. She can create various poisons and plant toxins within her body, and typically uses her signature deadly kiss to incapacitate or kill the targets she seduces. Poison Ivy is one of the more noteworthy examples of the femme fatale type character within comics, probably one of the best in my opinion. At number 8, we have Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot, known by his criminal name the Penguin. He's a Gotham City mobster who owns and operates the Iceberg Lounge nightclub, who considers himself to be the gentleman of crime, usually depicted wearing elegant clothing, tuxedos, top hats, and monocles. He makes use of several high-tech umbrellas, housing various weapons, like knives, machine guns, gas, and mini helicopter propellers that allow him to fly. The Penguin has always been a very colorful and gimmick-heavy character, but has been portrayed in darker and edgier ways too. For number 7, I'm going with Selena Kyle, Catwoman. She is a very complex character, having found herself playing the role of villain, anti-hero, and the on-again, off-again love interest of the Dark Knight over the years, always keeping you guessing what she's going to do next and what allegiance she has, which keeps things interesting. Catwoman has been around since the very beginning, debuting in issue number 1 of Batman for March of 1940, so she's one of the most enduring villains in Batman's rogues gallery. One of my personal favorite Batman villains has always been the Riddler, my number 6 pick. His puzzles, questions, and conundrums he presents Batman usually lead to a lot of engaging concepts and interesting visuals within the stories he's featured in. Who doesn't love a good mental challenge? I know I do, and so does Batman, clearly. He lives for this kind of stuff. Next up at number 5 is Rachel Ghoul, the seemingly immortal leader of the League of Assassins, whose name in Arabic translates to the Demon's Head. He is an international terrorist who seeks to restore the balance and harmony of the planet and its environment, at the cost of most, if not all, human life. Like I mentioned in my breakdown video on Ra's I did a while back, I think he came at a time when the comics industry was changing. Stories and villains were becoming darker and edgier than they had ever been before. He signified a change in Batman villains, in Batman comics. Moving on to number 4, with former District Attorney Harvey Dent, who would become the dual-personalitied Two-Face, after mob boss Sal Maroni threw acid in Dent's face during a legal trial, scarring the left side of it. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved Two-Face. He's got a memorable design, interesting and tragic backstory, and the themes surrounding the character, involving duality, fate, justice, fairness, they make for some great discussions in many of the stories he's featured in. They really get you thinking. Speaking of tragic comic book villains, my number 3 spot goes to Mr. Freeze, probably the most tragic out of them all. Mr. Freeze was once a cryogenic scientist named Victor Freeze, who had been trying to cure his terminally ill wife Nora before being caught in a laboratory accident which mutated his body, forcing him to wear a special cryogenic suit to keep his body at sub-zero temperatures. Mr. Freeze is one of the most sane out of all of Batman's villains, performing his villainous actions out of the love he has for his wife, above everything else. At number 2, we have the Master of Fear himself, the Scarecrow. I have spoken at great lengths about this character in breakdown videos, as well as comic book and video game reviews I've done. He's one of my personal favorites in all of comics. I love the concept behind the Scarecrow, someone who utilizes psychological warfare with his fear gas that brings the fears of his enemies to life right before their very eyes. Fear is such a subjective thing. It means different things to different people. It can be visualized in so many creative ways. I know I've repeated all of this stuff countless times, so let's just end it there. And who is the number 1 greatest villain of Batman? Why, none other than the Joker, of course. Even though he isn't my favorite Batman villain, I think that's always going to be the Scarecrow. I can see why Joker is his best, why he works so well as an antagonist in Batman stories. Joker is the craziest of them all, the most unpredictable, the wild card of Batman's rogues gallery that has his own separate wing at this point. The Joker has no empathy whatsoever for other human beings, and has been responsible for some of the most sadistic and personal attacks against Batman, like the death of the second Robin, Jason Todd, cutting the faces off the members of the Bat family and serving them on silver platters at a deranged dinner party for the Dark Knight, or the paralyzation of Barbara Gordon that forced her to retire as Batgirl and become the computer hacker and information broker Oracle who helped Batman and other members of the Bat family from behind the scenes. The list goes on and on. While I would admit the Joker is utilized a bit too frequently for my liking across all forms of Batman media, it doesn't change the fact that he is one of the most iconic, enduring, and influential villains in comic book history. Without the Joker, I don't think the Dark Knight would have been as successful, or at the very least, his rich history would be far less interesting if not for the Clown Prince of Crime. There are just far too many significant moments attached to the Joker. Batman would be a vastly different person if not for him. And there you have it, my list of the 10 greatest Batman villains of all time. Like I stated at the start of this video, Batman has so many incredible antagonists that it's hard to pick just 10. Some of your favorites probably didn't make the cut, but that's okay. We all have different tastes and preferences when it comes to characters, when it comes to villains, and in terms of Batman villains, honestly, very few of them do I not enjoy, FYI. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned because I have a lot more superhero-related content on the way. Plenty more comic reviews, game reviews, the odd top 5 and top 10. So don't go anywhere. I will see you all in the next one. Take care and stay nerdy.